Lead us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality, to peace, peace, peace.
Hello, viewers. I am Chitra Krishnamurthy, Director of Nrityalayya, the School of Indian Classical Odissi Dance in Potomac, Maryland. We hope you liked our presentation of HERstory, a dance portraying a woman's battle to overcome darkness by rekindling her passion for dance. In spite of the delays due to COVID-19, we have persisted and produced HERstory. You can still view it. To shed more light on the topic of depression, we are conducting a post-production webinar. To moderate today's webinar, I will now call upon one of our associates, a distinguished Toastmaster, Mr. Krish Murthy.
Hello, viewers. I'm Krish Murthy. I have been associated with Nrityalayya from its inception. Welcome to the Nrityalayya series, Pursuing Passions to Heal, titled HERstory and Our Stories, presenting the second post-production webinar. We have assembled an esteemed group of panelists. The panelists include speakers who have openly talked about the malady called depression that has challenged them. The panelists also include a therapist, a healthcare professional who will give us further insight into this darkness and the healing and recovery process. The very same panelists who took part in the pre-HERstory production webinar will now talk about the different paths to healing in the post-HERstory production webinar. I'm convinced that with the different kinds of help available these days, and with modern technological innovations, there is great hope for the future. Let's start our conversation with the panelists in the second webinar of the series. We will conduct this discussion as a question and answer session. We are honored to have such a diverse panel today. Our speakers for today are Ms. Wendy Leggett and Dr. Jibet Lozapone. Our healthcare professional for today is Dr. Suzanne Nixon. Please give a warm welcome to our panelists. I would like to start off this panel discussion with a few questions for our speakers. Ms. Leggett, please start by briefly describing your experiences with depression and tell us how you coped with it. This will serve as a refresher for the viewers. Over to you, Ms. Leggett.
Thank you. Well, I can't really say I coped very well. I've been suffering for a long time, and I did have a bad childhood without any support. I had no one to help me. When I finally did get to a therapist, they were military therapists that were men. And so I was not heard. I was dismissed as just being a crazy, unhappy wife. And it's been a long journey. I feel like I'm on the road to recovery now, and it's one day at a time.
Thank you. The second part of the question is, have you sought help for your depression? If so, what did the help look like? And if not, what barriers have you faced to seeking help?
I have been seeking help since I was 13 and have been given a lot of trouble. Again, having male therapists, and I was told to get over it, that there was nothing wrong with me, that I was crazy. And it wasn't until I was almost 50 where I found a female therapist that listened to me. And then having another bad episode when I was 65 and was given TMS, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation, which helped a lot, got me back on my feet after being in bed for a year. But it's still a therapy every week, medication, and hoping to find a support group, which I've lost a lot of during COVID.
Thank you, Ms. Leggett. I will now ask Dr. Lozapone the same question. Dr. Lozapone, please start by briefly describing your experiences with depression and tell us how you coped with it. This will serve as a refresher for our viewers. Over to you, Dr. Lozapone.
Well, as much as I would like to say there are lots of great things about getting older, there are some not so great things. But what I can tell you is that as you get older, I think you begin to connect the dots for a lot of things that you've experienced in your life, in your childhood. And as an adult, I have absolutely taken advantage of being able to sort of take control of any treatment that I've ever pursued, and to have honest conversations, not just with myself, but with loved ones and with great quality professionals. I have occasionally, when I have felt that the burden was too much for me to bear alone and that I absolutely needed to have a professional, I have sought that out. Recently, I have found an incredible professional. And so sometimes it's talking to a professional. Sometimes it's medication. I have found that I do well when I'm having acute experiences, to treat it in the moment. And also just a great support system also that has helped me to really be able to process aloud when I need to, any of the trauma that revisits me.
Thank you, Dr. Lozapone. I believe you actually answered the second part of the question, but I will just ask you to make sure. It goes this way. Have you sought help for your depression? If so, what did the help look like? And if not, what barriers are faced to seeking help? So please address anything that you want to add.
Sure. Well, what I can add in terms of barriers is, again, finding the right professional for you. And that could look like a lot of different things for different people. So I would say that's the number one barrier. The second barrier would be the time. Sometimes when you're going through it, you want to have access to somebody on the regular. You want to meet with somebody on a weekly basis, and that might not be feasible for myriad reasons. Which the third thing I'm going to tell you could be one of those reasons, which is cost. It's expensive. And that's a real barrier for everybody. So I can only imagine for individuals who don't have insurance or have other financial barriers. I'm sure their mental health falls to the bottom of their priority list when you've got to put food on the table and a roof over your head. So I would just add that those have really been, I think, the barriers for me, like so many others.
Thank you, Dr. Lozapone and Ms. Leggett, for your touching stories and frank, inspiring comments. I will now turn to our healthcare professional to get her insight on help available for depression today. So, Dr. Nixon, what kind of help is available these days for depression? Please advise our viewers about what kind of treatments are available. Over to you, Dr. Nixon.
Thank you. As I had mentioned previously, I am an integrative therapist. There are conventional modalities for treating depression and more holistic modalities. The conventional treatments are what both of our participants have said: counseling and psychotherapy, perhaps with a licensed professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, a social worker, a psychologist, and sometimes a psychiatrist. And then each within that have a special modality. So there's so many modalities that people practice right now and approaches in counseling. You can have a counselor that has a humanistic approach. You can have one that is trained in trauma. You can have one that is trained in EMDR, which is a trauma-based type of therapy. So when you are beginning to look at conventional models, you want to see all the different variations and approaches that are available. We have things like ACT therapy, ACT. We have IFS, internal family systems. We have psychoanalysis. So you want to see all the different approaches. And again, you can go to, I think the National Mental Health Institute has a very good glossary and references for all the different kinds of conventional therapies and modalities and approaches, and what would fit a need for anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD. The second is the holistic. And I think what you're doing here at the dance studio is really, our company is really great, that the expressive art therapies are very significant in helping somebody move through and heal with depression. You have dance and movement therapy, you have art therapy, you have music therapy, and you have something called psychodrama therapy. They are all recognized and they are all delivered by certified or licensed professionals with very well educations. Let's just remember that depression in the body is a state of feeling low energy. It's a state of feeling fatigue and exhaustion. What do we need when that's happening in our bodies? Even if it's mild depression, we need to move. We need to move the energy out of it, whether it is dance or art or music or psychodrama. And so even if you're not seeing a therapist right now and are searching for one, move. Do something to express with your body, with your hands, be creative. Put on the music and dance as if nobody's watching, as they say, or sing loudly in the car. Do something to get the energy out, even if that means going for a nature walk. Nature is the other aspect that heals. Nature does not judge you. Nature accepts you for who you are, and the beauty of nature and the sight of nature and the smell of nature can be a very strong healing force. And we are nature. We're one with nature. So I would, ask you to look at that modality. And of course, something that I'm trained in is mindfulness meditation. Let's remember to just stop for a moment and take that deep breath and inhale to the count of 4 or 5 and pause, and exhale to the count of 5 or 6. As soon as you begin to focus on deep breathing, you begin to calm down the nervous system. The cortisol levels begin to drop and your stress begins to drop. So breathing is an excellent tool to use whenever you're feeling the heaviness, the burden of depression and the fear of anxiety. Meditation is a great modality, and there are many, many, many free organizations, free support groups, free teaching platforms for you to seek meditation. And the last thing to say is keep up with good nutrition. We know that the brain needs good brain foods to be healthy. You're looking at vitamin B12, vitamin D, B2. You're looking for those kind of supplements and vitamins and fish oil that are going to restore good brain health. So you can go to a trusted holistic pharmacist, and some of your traditional pharmacists also know of the supplements and vitamins that will help with brain health, which helps them with depression and anxiety. Thank you.
Dr. Nissen, thank you. From what you said, I understand that help is available and
Yes.
it's tailored for the individual. This is such good information. Our next set of questions are for the speakers. for Ms. Leggett and Dr. Lozapone. What empowers you and gives you hope to fight the battle? What message do you have for those suffering from depression but are afraid to seek help? And what would you like our viewers to take away from our conversation today? Ms. Leggett, over to you.
Thank you. Well, what gives me the power to keep going right now is I don't want to disappoint my children and my grandchildren. I want to be a model to let them know that you can get help, that I'm there for them, like I didn't have somebody for me, so I'll always be there for them. I hope that they continue to recognize depression as an illness. Like if you have a broken bone or a stomach ache, you get help. And if you're depressed, you get help. To let people know it's out there. And I also feel when people told me I should get help, there were times I was so depressed that I couldn't open the phone book. And so I've learned that if somebody needs help, I do the research and I hand them the telephone number so that when they're at the place that they're at their bottom, they don't have to do the searching. And so I try and help other people by providing the information and they just have to make the call. But there is help out there.
Thank you, Ms. Leggett. Dr. Lozapone, the same question, over to you.
Yeah, I would say I have very distinct memories throughout my youth, which were incredibly difficult, and I didn't want to be around anymore. And I, in those moments, didn't really know how I would come through that. And it's really wonderful to have come to the side where I'm happy to be here. I always want to be here. And that I know that there is a support system available to me to help me through any challenges that I'm having. In particular, I think that, like Wendy said, I love that she's so compassionate and thoughtful, and having come through her experience, that when she recognizes when other people are struggling, she does the legwork for them. And it can be very difficult when you are in the depths of depression. It's like you're trapped in your own body and you cannot ask for help. You cannot pull yourself out. So I would say if you have friends, family members who know you and that love you and care about you, they are going to be your biggest allies because they are the ones that are going to come to help you. And so if you can, at minimum, be honest and say, I need help right now. Hopefully, if you're having these precursory conversations, they will know that is their cue to jump into action. But if you can just muster up the strength to say, I need help, then help will be on its way. And so to not give up the fight, hang in there, keep pushing forward. It is beautiful on the other side. Yeah, I mean, there is the other side. It's there. It's waiting for you. So those would be my words to them.
Thank you, Dr. Lozapone and Ms. Leggett. Your own struggles are moving. You serve as role models to others who need help. Thank you for that. The next set of questions are for Dr. Nixon. Depression is not contagious in an infectious manner, yet it is hard to open up, even to loved ones. Most times, it seems hard to even broach the subject, much less offer advice to loved ones who you can see are depressed and in need of help. Dr. Nixon, what myths can you dispel for those that are seeking help? And does stigma still delay the recognition and acknowledgement of depression and cause delays in treatment leading to horrific outcomes? What advice would you give our viewers? Over to you, Dr. Nixon.
Thank you. I first want to piggyback. I love that Wendy said, remember, this is a mental illness, just like if you had a physical illness. So this is a serious condition. And many times women try to talk themselves out of it or wonder if these symptoms are really real. And I first want to say they are real. If you're feeling fatigue and sad and crying most days than not, or feeling low energy, or feel no motivation to do something, you feel hopeless, those are symptoms of depression, and recognize them. And also, I love what Jabet said, is that you say to somebody, a trusted friend or mentor, I need help. I need help. And when you say it that way, people will respond or give you more resources. I want to say one thing that happened out of COVID is I believe that there's more compassion in the world. I believe that there's more connection in the world. And just as we've seen in the state of Virginia here and some in the federal government, that there's more money that has been given to nonprofits to help with mental health issues, as well as to help with just regular businesses. So there are centers that are here to help you as well, and the money's there, and some of them low cost. Like Jabet said, we may hesitate because of the cost. It is difficult, but more free services are available. And that really is the hope. And the second thing, insofar as stigma, is one thing that COVID has done is it put us all into shock. We didn't realize COVID was coming. It was like a tidal wave that hit our country and then the world as we know it. And what happens when something comes like that and it's shocking, people go into trauma. So a lot of people right now are in a trauma state or coming out of a trauma state. So you're not alone. Many people are trying right now to cope with what's happened during COVID, and those feelings are very much depression, anxiety, and trauma. So you're not alone right now. Try not to talk yourself out of it. This is real. This is not a made-up story in your head. And you will be believed, I think, more than ever before in our culture and society, because we all are realizing that mental health right now is at the forefront of almost all the organizations that have to do with healthcare. Thank you.
Dr. Nixon, thank you for informing our viewers that this is real, that help is available, and that people should reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the panelists, the speakers, Ms. Leggett, Dr. Lozapone. We really appreciate your willingness to openly talk and share your touching stories of depression with us. A heartfelt thanks to the therapist, Dr. Nixon, for sharing her experiences and giving us information about the help that is available today. Viewers, the same panelists have assembled before and after the presentation of HERstory and talked about their varied journeys to healing and the help available. Listening to the panel has been inspiring, and it has filled us with hope. Although the path to healing and recovery is never easy, taking those first small steps seems to be the key. In the caption below, you will find some websites and links where help is available. Folks, do not despair, as help is only a click away. Thank you, viewers, for joining us for this important conversation today.
These are indeed very important conversations. Viewers, stay tuned for the next episode that will air on YouTube on Saturday, December 4th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. It will include another diverse panel that will present different viewpoints. Please help us spread the word. We definitely welcome and encourage participation in our webinars. So if you're interested, please send an email to nrityalia@hotmail.com with your name, telephone number, and email so we can contact you. Please put Nrityalia Webinar Series in the subject line to alert us to your interest. We hope you liked our presentation of HERstory. We have been very excited to have you join us as we explore Her's journey through depression and her healing process. Thanks for your patience. The credit for the webinar series goes to the Nrityalia webinar team. Please check our website at www.odysseynrityalia.com for updates. This is Dr. Chitra Krishnamurthy signing off from the second episode of the post-HERstory series, Pursuing Passions to Heal, HERstory and OURstories webinars. Thank you.